This is Eco-ology. My name is Pat Greer.
And I'm H.C. Clark.
And we're so thankful to have joining us in the studio today Kavanaugh and Andrew. Kavanaugh and Andrew, instrumental during the flood. And as Amy Goodwin was just talking to Naomi Klein about a book, No is Not Enough. These people said yes during the storm, and on Saturday started rescuing people. And then when the floodwaters receded a bit, they were out helping people get supplies. When the supplies weren't quite as needed, they're still out ripping out sheetrock in houses in neighborhoods that have been forgotten. So we're very happy that they've joined us in the studio today. I don't know how many hours they were up over a 10-day period, 2-week period, up until now. But it was legion, and just epic proportions of goodness spilled from these two men and everyone that worked with them. There was food, there was people sleeping on couches. It was remarkable to experience and to just be in their presence. Thank you so much for being with us. So talk to us about this. How did all this business get started here? Kavanaugh.
Okay. So it started far before we knew anything about it, because we always had a passion to serve one way or another. I'm an avid gardener, as you can tell by working at the farmers market. Mm-hmm. And so is Andrew. We've known each other for about 4, maybe 5 years going on, and we would support each other in our different gardening endeavors. And then the storm came. My area of town was not hit hard. And then just seeing it just made me, I guess they call it survivor's guilt of some sort. And it was just like, what can I do? And because, of course, the city, Red Cross, whoever you want to name, were not around. And it was just like, what can I do? What can I do? And I just kind of started ranting. And I was like, look, we can do something. Something has to happen. Who has boats? It was just via social media. Andrew answered, and it's been a whirlwind since then. I think when Andrew answered, we had at our disposal one inflatable kayak and a few bikes. Andrew and his roommates went out on bikes and kayaks to scout the area and start pulling people out of houses. And I couldn't get around because I was in a different sort of part of town. So I would gather addresses from people who would need the assistance. And that's how it started, via social media. And it has become something that neither one of us can put down. And not just us, the whole team. It's been amazing. But everybody has had an experience just being a part of it. But everybody has had some experience before it, to where it's like it is divine to do this, the things that we've accomplished in 6 weeks now. I think we had it. I remember a month ago we was like, oh man, we're a week old now, and it's just amazing every time once we think about some of the things that we've accomplished, and we're infants, and so it makes us want to do more, and especially seeing the things that these large institutions that have existed for years, and to see that we've been able to do this in this short period of time. So it even brings more question to, like, what are you doing? You know,
Pat came home one evening and said, I just went over to the house where these guys are working out of, and it was an amazing bunch of stuff going on. It was by the time she got, and I'm sure it was that way all along, it was very well organized. Tell us about she described people sitting around the table with computers and cell phones and every means of communication. She said, call would come in, somebody needs food. Well, then somebody else knew how to get it. So tell us how that kind of worked.
Yeah, so it was quite an unfolding. So it did just start with an inflatable kayak and a truck and support from Leah and Jess, two of my roommates, to pull a family out, and they ended up staying on our couch for a few days. And Miss Vera was very hesitant to join us for an evening, and then by the time Wednesday rolled around, she didn't want to leave.
I think when I got there, maybe it was a Wednesday, we could get in there, and she was on the couch just resting away and just smiling, and she was this beautiful greeter.
She was incredible. It was a blessing to have her and get to spend time with her. So we started off with rescues, and so after the waters went down, that was a Wednesday or Thursday, we had seen these neighborhoods that had been devastated. And so we knew where to go first when the waters went down, and that was Kashmir Gardens, that was the Mesa Tidwell area. So we sent out scouts. We just showed up, and that seemed to be a differentiating factor in our group, was our willingness to show up and to be seen, and a willingness to work with anyone. So we drove around Fifth Ward Kashmir Gardens and the Mesa Tidwell area, identified 6 drop spots, and then spent the next several days coordinating efforts. So as we were getting energy going on social media, people were just calling us. We created a Google Voice number, we created a Gmail account, a website, and stuff was just coming in, and as fast as we could, we just got it straight out into the communities.
When you say a drop site, what type of things were you dropping?
So drop spot is even pretty lavish of a term for it, because we would volunteers would show up and we would say, we have prepared meals, we have diapers or cleaning supplies. So can you go to this street corner? There's either going to be a store that's shut down, or maybe it's just a vacant lot. Can you set up a table and just wait for people to come? And so they would go out to these sites, and our dispatch team would get a phone call. It was like, no one's here, and they were very confused and like maybe sometimes upset with us. And Ben or Leah or someone, or Victoria, someone would call them and say, it's okay, just give it 10 minutes, put the food out, people will come. And then an hour later we get a call like, that was amazing, we met some really cool people, and this was so great. So there was empowerment from the beginning for volunteers to realize that they can help neighbors. And it's like, from my work with Food Not Bombs over the years, it's like, this is, in many of these communities, there's always a need. There's always to show up for each other. And so West Street can fold at any point, but I think already the lessons and experiences that people have had value.
What you experienced and the volunteers that showed up has to be remarkable. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh man, it is remarkable. Everybody, there was a story. I think the first time that the first time I actually made it to the house, it blew my mind as well, because I had been working via phone and computer in a completely separate part of town, and then I finally show up, and then I'm introducing myself. How you doing? I'm Kavanaugh, and they were like, "Oh, you're Kavanaugh." I'm like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" And so, and then everybody had a skill. Like, I think we had, there's a lady on our team, her name is Jocelyn. She went out and like kind of went on her own, not on her own, but next thing you know, she does logistics professionally. And at the same time, she was scheduling logistics for food to come in, supporting a particular environment or a particular community. We had a volunteer. It's amazing. The first time I went, I was volunteering with guys he was a lawyer. He was an immigration lawyer. It's just like, hey, yeah, I'm just here to help. I was volunteering, and then I came back another day. I see a group of volunteers come back. The lady who was serving food was a friend of my mother. I didn't even know that she was involved. So it was just these relationships. Everybody came to show up to do what they could. And we had organizers and people who everybody came, did what they could, and they filled the need. And that was the key thing. It was just not, it was about empowerment. Like, hey, you guys are doing this. This is what I see. This is how it can be better. I think, like the first couple of days, every day was different, and everybody had to be flexible. including that space. I think I came one day, we had tables one day, they had a little dispatch with about 2 computers and phones. And then I came back the next day, as whiteboards everywhere. The whole room has been remodeled. And we got a list of these distribution spots and these organizations. It's been amazing, the amount of growth. People just ready to step up and do it regardless. And it was, people were so effective and so willing to help. It's like like he said, in the short period of time, we created a Google Voice number, a Gmail account, and a website, all within this month while we're still pushing and doing this work. And it got to a point to we had a website. We were forced to get a website because we had so much traffic going through a free Gmail account. Gmail shut us down. And it was, nobody could understand that, how do we outgrow Google? And it was crazy. And then at a short period of time, I think a few days later, Andrew was like, Kavanaugh, are you going to answer your emails? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have an email address Kavanaugh@weststreetrecovery.org. And it's just like, okay, when did that happen and why? I knew we had email problems, but so everybody jumped in. I think people were building databases about what type of resources that we have available and where to send those resources. So this is not, it's fly by night, but it's not fly by night. Even myself, I'm an accountant. So we're having these discussions about funds coming in, but at the same time, I'm like, look, we need to make sure that this is recorded. Mm-hmm. This is what we need to do, and as best as possible. And that's my field, but it's just amazing. So everybody has volunteered, has been highly specialized, and ready and willing to do work. Because even though I might be an accountant, I'm not only doing accounting. I kind of mess with people. I was like, look, I have a brain too. I'm not just here to lift heavy boxes.
You're not just a pretty face and a strong back.
Yeah. It's more than that. But so it's been amazing, and that's been the story across the board. People are willing to pick up phone calls and send emails, and people are willing to spend hours tearing down walls. So it's been a growth experience for everybody. So every volunteer has been very, very passionate, and it's an honor. It's an honor and a privilege every day. We were all tired. I was like, look, we have to stop. I don't know what we're gonna do. We were like, okay, we're gonna stop for a day. It never happened.
No, never. So visiting with us in the studio today, we have 2 young men from West Street Recovery, and they are a very small portion of a very large organization that is growing. And it's large because so many hearts came in and are available to donate their time, donate their resources to making things happen here in our Houston town.
Let me ask you that, though. Do you want this organization to grow? I mean, you're exhausted. Is it the sort of organization that will come to life when some kind of disaster strikes? Well, I'm sure you guys talk that over.
We have been. We have. Yes, we do want it to grow, and our plan is not to just be a disaster recovery organization. Our plan is to be a community and emergency resilience organization, and also centered around the empowerment of Black and brown communities and lower economic communities. And just the only thing that has happened as a result of this storm, it has exacerbated the issues that already exist in these communities. These communities were already underserved. A lot of these communities were already food deserts. A lot of these communities had a lack of job opportunities, and had issues with housing. And so now it's like the crisis creates opportunity, and it has allowed us to have the opportunity to work so closely amongst ourselves and amongst everybody in our group. But it has magnified the issues that exist within these communities. And so when we meet as a group, we always talk about okay, like I said, we can't put this down. There is no way. And at the same time, we've been doing this work. And we've just been doing this work separately. So now we're able to come together as a group and continue this work and be even more effective. So yes, we have plans for the very near future and the ongoing future to continue.
Yeah, and for me, when I say like it can fold tomorrow or at any time, it's to say that we don't want to force this in any way. Some of us are from these communities and are doing organizing in these communities, whether West Street's around or not. If we feel called and are actually called to do this work, then we will do it. And that's how we've done from the beginning. We did rescues because people asked. We brought food out because we saw that need and saw stores close. We cleaned out houses because we drove around and people were like, please, like, can you send people? So we don't go and tell people what they need or what's going on. We are responsive in that way as much as we can be.
Talk about resilience then. We've had Kathy Vossler on a couple of times talking about 2100 Memorial and the eviction that kind of started to take place there. And ideas about that could be a resilient building if you kind of gave up the first floor and let the waters go through. We had Blackburn on talking about 15 points of things that Houston needed to do. That's the big picture. You guys, what are you talking about in terms of resilience and talking to people in the community?
Yeah, so there's several pieces there. One of the most immediate things is getting houses livable again. So we're meeting families. There's a storied family of 7 that's living in a tent under their carport in the Mesa Tidwell area. And people will say, well, did they try FEMA? Did they try this or that? Those options haven't been good for them. They have pets. They have lots of the daughter has a job in that area at a hospital and is also in school. So taking a FEMA shelter that's 2 hours away just isn't a reasonable thing. So
yeah, and also one of the things that we're working on is the theory of solidarity, not charity. So when we come in and we're working in a house, we're not like, hey, we're coming to clean out your house. Like, no, we have tools. This is what we're going to do, and you can help us. This is what we plan to do. And so if you have nowhere else to go, at the very least, next time this happens, you know what to go. You know what to do. We're also working for these people in homes to where we can have sustainable rebuilds. So if this does happen again, we're looking at options to where, yes, your house will be flooded, hopefully, but at the same, or hopefully not. But if that does happen, what type of rebuild materials can we use to where even if it does happen, you will not be inundated with mold? And that we're dealing with the sheetrock and these different chemicals that become almost like a petri dish for these certain things. But if we change our building materials, we can change our outcome. We're also looking at options to where, like I said, down the line to where we know that these areas are built in the floodplain. So if there are people who are willing to relocate, where can they relocate to where an area that is more equitably built and established that are not having these same issues? Because so those are the things we're looking at. And also, like I said, training, creating jobs. A lot of people have lost jobs. People have been organizing in these communities and are from these communities. So why are we taking them out of this community to go back to a day job that's not serving this particular community? I think W.E.B. Du Bois spoke about it, just especially in the African American community, which I'm from. He talked about the brain drain. You have this top 10, 15% of these people within these neighborhoods who are pulled out because they have no way to sustain themselves within it. So now we're working to empower and create jobs for you to serve your community. So those are the things that we're looking towards, and at the same time creating a collective of these organizations, so we can be like, we can leverage support. If we can say, okay, we have a list of 15 to 20 grassroots organizations who have done this work. Now we can leverage the support from these government entities who are leaving these communities behind. Obviously, you are not capable to the greatest extent to be able to serve these communities. So that's okay. Look at what we've done. Now you can support us so we can support our own communities. And these are just a few ways that we're looking about to rebuild these communities and talk about resiliency.
Okay, the question everybody's asking, and just a little interruption here. Let us know, and then in the future let us know, how could people get a hold of you if they want to join and help out?
Best way to join is connect@weststreetrecovery.org, or there is a website there as well, weststreetrecovery.org.
And we are on social media as well. So there's a Facebook page, West Street Recovery. We have a Instagram page and Twitter. So you can engage with us via these social media channels. Send the email. Check our website. And you can also find us on youcaring.com/WSR for West Street Recovery. So we are very avid about making having those platforms to be available for people to engage with our group in whichever way possible. Even if it's something to where you might have a particular resource or connection that you think that you just want to send to us, please send it. And we need as much help as we can. And believe me, we'll put it to use one way or another.
On the one hand, you just spoke about moving out of a community. On the other hand, one of the things that we talk about a lot on the show, Pat has had a million guests on here talking about the value of community. And it's like those people who were living in a tent in a carport. I mean, they didn't want to move. They had their pets, they had jobs, they had schools. Talk about this kind of, well, we're not psychologists, but talk about that kind of value of community and the necessity for you guys to get in there and make it work.
Well, like you said, we're dealing with some elders and some families who've been in these communities 30, 40 years. And we're coming into people's houses at times and saying we got to throw away everything. And it's a very traumatic thing. And a lot of people, it's not just about the amenities, the jobs or whatever, but it's about the connection. People have built their lives to have these homes. So, like I said, we're trying to make sure that these people have these skills to be able to take care of this space. So, and to also be able to leverage the support that they need from their local politicians, and also to be informed. One of the things that we did as well, because I know the storm happened pretty much right before the first of the month. So a lot of people are renters. So one of the first things that we were doing when we had distribution points, we were also giving out renters' rights to let people know, okay, is your landlord forcing you to pay or live in substandard situations? Then these are your rights. We had them in both English and Spanish. This is what you need to be speaking to your landlord about, so you can have the possibility of staying in that community. We were also assisting people with FEMA applications, things of that nature. But the main thing is about empowerment. We always try to figure out how can we give someone the resource so it's not that we're here to be a savior. We want to make these communities better. And so by coming in and assisting people and giving them the tools that they need, we'll lend out tools. We'll come with somebody might be willing to tear out their home and don't have tools to tear out their home. So we'll come with a group of people and some tools so we can get this done. So that's one of the ways that we're working. And so and another group that came by.
Yeah. I was going to talk about, I think Alicia Miles is a really good example of this contrast between an outside organization and an inside person. So, I grew up in Meyer Park, Meyerland, but Alicia is from the South Side and knows her neighborhood well. So she organized 75 saves in her community, did the logistics for that, to get out her friends, her family members from these homes. And she helped coordinate that effort. So she doesn't want to see her friends and family stuck in their homes again. So there's a real motivation there to do better next time. So she came up with this thing called the COPE program, which is Community Organization Program to Empower and Equip. So that's going in and doing things like the Farley Boat Works, which is out of Port Aransas, that teaches people how to build boats. It teaches them how to build skiffs, how to build canoes. So imagine high schoolers in that neighborhood building boats that they can be rescuing people in that neighborhood with. Like the levels of empowerment there are incredible. So and Alicia being from that neighborhood and knowing best how to communicate to her peers has been invaluable. And so we as West Street Recovery want to support her in that endeavor as much as we can.
And there are always stories about somebody in their community who have helped their neighbors just on a whim. That's what we're doing. And so anytime when we work with a number of different organizations, and when we see somebody out doing the work, we try our best to support them. And it's like, hey, we have a resource to where you can get supplies. This is what you need to do. Or do you need volunteers? We'll tell our volunteers to go there. So it's about like we're trying to equip people. But a lot of these communities, we have answers to these problems. I'm a gardener, and one of the gentlemen who I learned a lot from, he was like, if you have an issue in the garden, just keep your eyes open, because the solution to your problem is not far away. And that's the same thing for these communities. Who knows better how to fix a community than the people who live there? And a lot of times these politicians, huge organizations, and even ourselves, we had to be humble enough to be like, okay, we're bringing food today. What do you need? And then it got to the point, it was like, look, man, we have the food that you gave us, but now we need cleaning supplies. And then now we need access to tools. And so it's about being able to listen. That's the only way we can really assist, is to be able to listen.
So going forward, my friends, Andrew Kavanaugh, what's next?
We just had a really good meeting on Friday with Living Paradigm. And they've been in the community for 4 years and have some important partnerships already established in some of these neighborhoods. And they are already out there taking measurements and working on sustainable rebuilds, like deciding which materials are going to be most effective. So what we're happy to see is that there are more and more groups showing up in these places. So we want to partner where it makes sense. But as we saw with the flood itself, there's so much of a need that everyone, we can use all the help we can get. So I just got back from TXRX. Ronnie over there just did a great job showing Becky and I around some incredible displays they've been doing, trainings on the weekends on how to put up drywall, and even some alternative building materials, such as this white plastic. That was a really interesting building material as well. But I think for West Street, we will continue to try to make our own decisions from a place of listening. So the things we are focused on right now are empowering community organizers to keep doing this work. So people like Alicia Miles, who we spoke about, who did all those saves and wants to keep doing work in her community and with us. We want to be able to get her from her job. I hope her boss isn't listening. But she's spoken about what a pleasure it's been working with our team, and that it's interracial, and that she hasn't had this much respect in a job before. So that's one piece, is hiring, paying people to continue to do this work. Other pieces are doing these sustainable rebuilds, talking about raising houses, talking about using materials that can be dried out and reused so we're not filling up landfills. Talking to community members about organizing buyouts in places that were right on bayous that we know are going to flood again. and then just continuing to bring supplies out to these communities and check in on specific needs. Those are some of the things we're working on. Kavanaugh is our vision man, so he can talk the big picture.
We talk about economic development as well, and we also know, because of people are so pushed and willing to give, we want to make sure that we are not just putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. So one of the things that we do with every dollar that comes through our organization is we focus on empowerment of locally and small and locally owned businesses. So we try our best not to purchase anything from those big conglomerate box stores, Walmart, Lowe's, and you have you. But we work to empower the small and these locally owned businesses. And so when we do purchase some things, we're going to places like, I think the first week we were purchasing the most of our food from New Orleans Co-op. We were going to Dixie Hardware, Cox Hardware, these type of places that can supply the exact same thing that we need, and these dollars are able to funnel through our communities. We want to look at creating, like, we speak to people from Common Grounds, and they've been advising us on a lot of things. And one of the things that Mr. Raheem has been sharing with me, he was like, we've done some good work, but at the same time, when it came down to the rebuild of our city, we still had a problem with unemployment, but it was $50 billion floating around New Orleans. And so we're also trying to make sure that these contracting, they're paying equitable wages, that these are every business in the city of Houston who is locally owned should be inundated with work. There should not be any problem. We should not have issues with unemployment. This should be an opportunity to be able to really rebuild our city. Like I said, a lot of these issues existed before, but now we are receiving this infusion of support. We need to make sure that it goes to the right places that actually needs it, not the same group of, some people might say, the good old boys or whatever have you. I think we were looking in the news last week. We were talking about they did the first round of funding, and were to a group of organizations that are recognized or experienced in doing this work. Honestly, within the first week of us running West Street Recovery in that 4-bedroom house, we were distributing and dispatching trucks by the Houston Food Bank and the Salvation Army. Why are you asking us for this? But we're not the experienced ones. So it's very interesting to see these things happen. So we're going to continue to do that, and we're going to continue to push forward and make sure that the communities that need the most support are getting the most support that we can give.
Give us some quick contact information.
Connect at weststreetrecovery.org. There's also a website. There is a Google Voice phone number if you're into that, which is 832-356-6073. And we're on Facebook, Instagram. It's West Street Recovery, spelled out.
Remarkable young men doing remarkable work. Andrew, Kavanaugh, thank you so much.
And we want very much to get you two back here, because you're doing a lot of things that are going to be long-term, and people need to know about it.
So in just a few weeks, we'll get you back on.